Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, guests. Gettysburg Battle and Address. In the first half of 1863, General Robert E. Lee and his Confederate soldiers had a number of decisive victories against the Union Army invading from the north. With the confidence in his troop and with his eagerness to bring the battle to the northern people, Lee decided to march northward. They had a long travel and they were in Pennsylvania. The troops were worried and they did in fact have worn out boots. An advanced scout to Gettysburg came back with news of the city, including that they had a shoe factory in Gettysburg. And these may have been factors that brought together the Union and Confederate troops at Gettysburg. At the time all the troops gathered, there were over 100,000 troops from both armies. The Confederate Army did well in the early going, but after a couple of days, having been weary from their travels in battle and having been in short supply, the Union Army started to prevail. They had a steady stream of supplies, they had the support of the local populace, and they had better commanders. And of course, as you know, the Union Army eventually prevailed in the Battle of Gettysburg. Gettysburg was a horrific battle. Over 8,000 dead Union and Confederate soldiers, over 3,000 dead horses, all these dead corpses in an area of less than 2 square miles. General Lee, in his hasty retreat, was not able to take his soldiers back with him. The Union Army leaders wanted to take their soldiers back with them to family plots or to local cemeteries, but the governor forbade it for fear of the spread of disease. So in the next short period of time, the northern states, in an unusual spirit of cooperation, decided to have a cemetery in the honor of these dead people. And here we are in November of 1863 when this all came together. So I ask you to travel back with me to November 1863, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Now you are the parents or the children or the siblings or the spouse of the dead soldiers that fought bravely in the Battle of Gettysburg. And you have come here to hear something. Your emotions are all over the place. You are angry, you are bitter, you hate the enemy, you dislike your president for continuing in this war, you want to have courage, you want to have hope, your feelings change by the day, you're just bewildered, and you're looking for something. Edward Everett, the famous orator, was to be the main speaker at the Gettysburg Address. In fact, he spoke for 2 hours. As an afterthought, they said we should have President Lincoln say a few words. And in fact, Lincoln said less than 300 words. Lincoln thought his words well out because he knew his citizens were in this state of mind, and he knew the people were desperate, and he knew people were just clutching at something for hope. So he chose his words wisely. And in fact, his speech was interrupted by applause 5 times. So you are these citizens, and I respectfully am President Lincoln giving the address, the Gettysburg Address. A great number of you have come from many states, a number, they figure about 15,000. My fellow Americans, 74 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and dedicated can long endure. We are gathered on a great battlefield of that war. We have come together to dedicate a portion of that battlefield as a final resting place for those who died here that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in the final analysis, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow, we cannot honor this ground. Those brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for the living, rather, to be dedicated to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be dedicated here to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take devotion to the cause to which they gave their last full measure of devotion, that we here firmly resolve that this nation, under God, of the people, by the people, and for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Mr. Toastmaster.